the Human Rights Institute podcast. My name is Tiffany Case. I am the graduate assistant here at the HRI. And joining me today are the co-chairs of Unity Week at Kean University, Chelsea Leone and Lindsey Gonzalez. Unity Week is an initiative done by Kean to promote diversity and inclusion and understanding that we are here on a diverse campus during some really interesting times. So I wanted to talk to them about the purpose of Unity Week. And what I'll do first is I'll just allow each of you to talk about yourselves briefly, just like who you are, what your position is at Kean, and just like a little bit about yourself. So I'll start with, we'll go with Lindsey.
All right. Oh man, we're getting feedback. So hi, my name is Lindsey Gonzalez and I am the current student organization president. I am also a senior and I'm studying human resource management. A little bit about myself. I am very optimistic. I'm naturally optimistic and positive. I always look for new ways to improve and I always look for students' concerns. I always look for student opinions to make the best decisions for this year, especially with COVID, what kind of regulations are needed to be implemented for everyone's safety. So I'm excited. I'm really excited to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem, Lindsey. And then Chelsea, if you'd like to say something.
Okay. Mute your sound. Thank you. Sorry. Technical difficulties in this corner.
You're in the same room, right? So it's you get feedback. No worries.
Yeah. So my name is Chelsea. I am also a senior here at Kean. I'm a political science and history pre-law major. A little bit about myself. I'm the vice president of programming for student organization. So that's how I became the co-chair for Unity Week, because I do help to host some of the events that we have here virtually or on campus. A little bit about myself. It's really hard to talk about myself. It's probably the one thing I struggle with. So it's gonna be a little bit difficult, but my whole purpose of being here at Kean and like why I'm so involved is mostly because I always want to make sure that students are still enjoying themselves while they're at Kean. My number one goal is that student activities are still running smoothly, but they're also learning at the same time when they come to these events. So most of the events that we try to host a student org, even though they are fun events, we still try to cater to health, life skills, and still trying to put an initiative of them being social while being virtual. That's about it.
Awesome, great. So as the talk centers around Unity Week, maybe you could, for like someone who doesn't know what Unity Week is, maybe they're a Kean student, they don't know what it is. Could you just explain, the basics of what it is, what it entails, and the purpose of it?
Of course. So basically what Unity Week is a time where we separate, 1 week that we separate for administration, faculty, staff, and students are able to come together and get to know each other and be one as a Kean community. Just a little bit of background, we did have a kickoff this past Monday where our Vice President of Student Affairs, Matt Caruso, was actually in my position 22 years ago. He was an undergraduate student organization president. And this idea was brewing around 1992. And it was because it was a time, it was a time where there was division within Kean community because of something that had happened at the time. And it created a huge division. So what he came up with his friends and executive board at the time was, hey, we need to come back together. Generations of Kean students are not going to experience what we're experiencing. If anything, we need to build up and become stronger and more united as a Kean community. So for about 22 years, we've been having Unity Week annually. And it's a time where different departments and organizations come up with events, and they can do awareness. It could be healthcare, it could be cultural, social events where everyone is able to experience different parts of campus and know more about their university and college. So it's a great time. It's actually pretty fun. I know this past Monday we had like 3 different types of cultural food, and everyone walked around with like huge plates of food. But you know, we're very excited, and it's a pleasure to be able to host this event for this week.
Wow. Wow. I didn't know that that it went back so far, before any of us were born, probably, right? Would either of you happen to know what happened in 1992, or whatever event kind of sparked this?
Yes. So basically, I read into it a little bit because I learned about it myself when I was, after I said the speech, which is on YouTube, by the way. There's a link on YouTube in Cougar Link if anyone wants to watch it.
Got it.
That there was a dispute, a racial dispute,
Mm.
way back when, where someone came in, and I'm not giving like specific details because I
Yeah.
just learned about this and I don't want to say anything wrong, but someone came in and they were very strong about their opinions, and it created a divide. A lot of people agreed with what he was saying, and a lot of people disagreed. And it was like, it was just a whole divide. And it was, again, very biased. So not a lot of, he wasn't really considerate about what he was saying. And people agreed with what he said and people disagreed. Kind of what's happening right now.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but instead it was actually on New York Times and it was on the newspaper, and, you know, it sprouted in the Kean community. So, you know, people were just all of a sudden turning their backs against each other, saying, hey, no, such and such, this race is not like that. And then another person would say, hey, take a seat and I'll tell you why you're wrong, you
Mm.
know? And it was that kind of thing. And you know, from then on, that's what the purpose of this is kind of to put our differences aside and work together for a common goal.
Great. That's really interesting. That I guess not much has changed, I suppose, in how we kind of have discourse around these issues. In fact, we have seen things insofar as like internet culture, the presidency of Donald Trump. We are seeing a lot more of that division, and it's good that Unity Week was a proactive and productive kind of response. That like, I think that's. I mean, maybe you can tell me, like, it seems to make sense that in any situation where you have some kind of division, that the ultimate goal is not to continue to like divide and further the problems, but to actually try to unify it. I mean, that's just seems pretty basic to me.
Yeah, became me. Sorry, it's gonna be a
No,
lot
no,
of
it's fine. Like,
muting.
I don't. It doesn't even bother me.
I think with the climate that we are in right now, the thing about Unity Week, it's not just about the departments that brings together, it's about the students overall. It's about students who don't know something about a different culture, a different idea, different we did something with disabilities. You know, you might not know a little bit more about how people with disabilities do feel when you say certain things or do certain things. Even with the Human Rights Institute talking about the protests that happened over the course of the summer, is bringing light to what our students are doing. And that's what we're trying to cater the most to when it comes to Unity Week. It's not just about the departments, also about the students, what they're learning from this. At the end of the day, this is an institution about learning, and we also have to learn about differences when it comes to going to, especially Kean University. We are a diverse community, and that's what we need to really stick strong on. And I think that's the thing about Unity Week. It sticks on the fact that we are diverse, but while we're diverse, we're trying to learn more about each other at the end of the day.
Yeah, that seems to make a lot of sense. And so you mentioned putting a spotlight on disability. So are there any, actually, I'll just open this. Are there any social issues, human rights issues, civil rights issues that Unity Week wants to put a spotlight on? Like for the Kean campus, like have you focused on specific topics?
So it's not just really on specific topics. It's based on what the student interest is in. I think with where we are now in society, everything is on the spotlight. So any issue, climate issue, anything like that is kind of in front center, and it's just how we tackle it and how we teach and inform students about it. It's really how we're going about it. It's not putting one thing over the other. That's the thing about Unity Week. It's kind of like we're all on equal basis, and we were just putting spotlight on each day was something new, but it's also at the end of the day, it's the learning aspect of it. We're not trying to say one person's issues is bigger than the other person. So like we had something where we talked about the Asian community, the Black community, disability community. We talked about Holocaust Resource Center, like all these different things. It wasn't what was over each other. It was a level base, but we're teaching you about what's happening in these different communities and how would you take this information, how would you go about your day, and how would you treat others within the Kean community.
Awesome. Yeah, Lindsey, would you like to like add to that?
So yeah, I completely agree. And, I can definitely back Chelsea up. During this time in Unity Week, we're not highlighting only one specific issue or one specific problem. Instead, we are allowing our Kean community to speak up equally and have an equal opportunity to say, hey, we're here, we're strong. Come learn more about us. We're willing to teach you. I know during this week, there was a lot of student performances where we allowed students to kind of, give a spoken word, dance, and even sing and show off their talents. And we definitely made it student-centered, so they're able to express themselves the way they want to, especially, when it comes to culture, when it comes to any problems or any hurt that they may be feeling. I know that the spoken word that happened this past Monday was definitely great. He spoke about COVID. He spoke about where he stands as a student and his perspective on things. So it was definitely great to hear that and give an equal opportunity to all students on campus to express themselves and, show each other what we probably didn't see before.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually interesting that you say like things we haven't seen before. I think that's like a big part of what I think bringing people together really is. It's like you are not trading in someone's difficulties for someone else's. It's just about understanding that like there are probably some issues that we haven't been talking about. And they're being brought to light, and like it's just time to talk about them. So you did mention COVID. I was actually curious, how did Unity Week activities change in light of like the campus closing and like virtual and everything? Like were there any like difficulties transitioning content over to that?
Did you mute? I'm sorry. So I've been to Unity Week before, and it's very different, like with going virtual. It's not the same when you're interacting with students, because usually Unity Week is outside on MSC patio. Every event you get to get firsthand, you get to interact with other students. The interaction is just a little bit different because everyone kind of zoomed out. So I think one of the important things is that students were actually coming out to these events, and that to me, I love that the most, because I was like, oh, students are coming. And I think that was one of our biggest concerns: will students show up to come to these events, because of the fact that it's virtual. It's not like before when we weren't dealing with COVID. If an event was going on, you just walk into the event, you're like, oh, what is this? Oh, I'd like to learn more. Students are actually pushing themselves to actually show up to these events and participate within them. So I think that's one of the biggest things that, like, I think that was my big concern. Like as VP of programming, I was very concerned about the fact that will students show up to these events and would they actually learn something? So like I did pass by a few events in MSc and I was like, oh wow, students are actually coming in. They're actually stopping to learn something. It's not just about, oh, I get a free item if I come to this event. It was actually like, oh, can you tell me a little bit more what's going on? Can you inform me what's happening here? And I can take this home with me. I can tell my friends. I can share this information. So even last year, I don't think we were able to have a Unity Week. Or correct me if I'm wrong, Lindsey, we weren't able to have Unity Week last year because of COVID.
Right. We couldn't have Unity Week. Oh, I'm sorry. We couldn't have Unity Week because COVID hit. And around March, actually, and Unity Week usually takes place around March. And when, when we said, it's crazy, when we said bye in spring break, we never came back, technically. And, after spring break, I'm so sorry, we would usually have Unity Week. But if you have anything else to say, Chelsea, I would add on after you.
I think also the other thing is that Uni Week, even though it's about learning, we still want students to still have kind of like a peace of mind. So we usually had a concert the end of Unity Week, but doing a virtual wouldn't be the same effect as it would. It's usually like a big concert that we have for students just to end out Unity Week. So instead, we hosted a game show. So last night, student organization hosted a Wheel of Fortune game show. And surprisingly, we had a good turnout of students who came in, even though it's a little bit different aspect of Uni Week. It was something kind of like we were like, oh, this might be interesting and fun for students. We still want you still to be able to have fun when you're coming to some events. It's all about learning, but we also want students to still be relaxed because we understand that it's COVID. And just throwing too much information at someone, you're kind of like, oh man. But so we try to host a little game show. A lot of students turned out, and that actually hit the social aspect of it. Students were able to interact with each other, say like, they worked in partnerships. So they were able to be like, hey, this answer is wrong. Let's work together really quickly. I'll type this message to you. They didn't know each other, but they were just randomly chosen to be put on a team and just work together. And then that's one of the aspects of Unity Week as well, is working together and being diverse in the community, but also working together, learning together. And that was one of the things that we wanted to do with this game show, that since we're just like coming in or just like, oh, we're just here just to have fun, we're working together and building a new community, meet a new friend while you're even doing it too. And that's the thing that we wanted to pinpoint when it came to Unity Week, to meet someone new within the Kean community, even though we're virtual.
Wow. All right, that sounds like a lot of fun. As a graduate student, it's funny because I remember being an undergrad and like all the things that you can do as an undergrad, but as a graduate student, you're just like, I don't want to like be like a weird older person trying to be cool with these like young early 20 somethings. So like I tend not to participate in a lot of these things, but it is really interesting and cool. Like it's like you're having fun, but it's also pretty productive. And I also wanted to say, like, compared to my, every university like has its own identity. I think it has a lot to do with the geographic location, has to do with the administration, has to do with like, of course, probably the student body is the most important part, but Kean has a really interesting, very positive atmosphere. With the president, Lamont Rapollet, I don't know if you guys get his email correspondences, but like he sends out a lot, and it's funny because like I feel like, in my undergrad and like also my graduate program, it's kind of unusual to get that kind of like correspondence from the president of the university, and I was like I feel like he really cares, like and I think that atmosphere just creates a identity for Kean that is very positive for students. So our podcast is trying to bring together different parts of Kean University, and we do focus on like human rights issues, but we also just focus on like Kean and trying to draw people together. And so I just wanted to make that statement. Like, how do you guys feel about the I guess the general atmosphere of Kean University as an undergrad? Like, how do you feel about what it's like to be an undergrad here?
Okay, so I could totally, give you that feedback. One thing also, I wanted to comment when you said, you're a graduate student. There's no way that you would, stand out. I would definitely say, because another co-chair of this Unity Week was your graduate and part-time student council president, Gabriella Lapointe.
Okay.
And I apologize if I said her name wrong, or if she listens to this and I said her name wrong. But, we really want to try to unite the graduate students as well as the undergrad, because even in our classes, we're so blended. In our classes, we have moms, dads, grandfathers. Trust me.
Yeah.
I think one of my group members is a grandfather. And he's great. And it's just a social interaction experience. As an undergrad, though, talking about how the atmosphere is at Kean as undergrad, I would definitely say Dr. Repollet, Lamont Repollet, he definitely stepped in. We do receive his letters every week. And, it's kind of like a diary. He tells Kean, hey, this happened this week. And I just want to thank such and such for, donating for a scholarship, or,
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like,
yeah.
I was like, he's talking to us like directly, and it's like a newsletter, but like it's just it's really interesting. Yeah,
it's so different, right?
Yeah.
And it's a way for him to say, hey, I'm here for you. And one thing I will definitely say, working with him, he walks around campus, he asks students, he would literally like walk up to a student, and mind you, this is COVID time. And of course, we all wear our masks, we're all social distancing, but he takes time during the day to walk around campus and see a stranger. And he was like, hey, we're making this change. What do you think about that? And the students like, they're like starstruck.
Yeah. The president of the university is just like chilling.
Right. And he's like talking to me. He's like, oh, he just came up to me and he asked me about my opinion. Like, who am I? I don't hold a position. And that's one of the beauties of it. And one thing I will definitely say, it's the leadership in these organizations, and even Dr. Repollet that set the tone for the atmosphere, right? As well as seeing how Dr. Repollet leads this campus and gives us a sense of hope through his letters, and even talking to students that he doesn't know, but he knows that, hey, your opinion still matters because you are the student body, right? It doesn't matter if you're a graduate, doesn't matter if you're undergrad, doesn't even matter if you're a faculty member, professor. He'd always ask for people's opinions because he wants to give his best to us. And I definitely say, I'm pretty upset that I'm leaving.
Oh yeah.
As a senior, yeah. And graduation, and just being able to be a part of this atmosphere and seeing Kean the way it is now compared to how it is when I came in freshman year, it's so different. And it's great. Like, I don't know, I can be an ambassador for Kean, because Kean cannot, for me, in my mind, it's not on a low scale. It's actually great, and it's getting better because of the students that are coming in, sharing their vision, being able to say, hey, this is happening, let me give my input. And I will say, everyone that I've worked with as president of student org, they have been diligent, they have been passionate about carrying out a message to the students and saying, hey, student org is here for you. Hey, we want to hear your concerns, we want to hear what's going on with you, so we can do our jobs right and set the tone for the next generation to come.
Great, yeah. And then of course, Chelsea, if you want to add to that, you can.
I think with the newsletters, why I thought it was so important to do is that it also sheds light to the students and student success. Because sometimes when you read those emails, you're like, wow, the student really did that. It brought light to it. And it's kind of like those silent characters that never really get any recognition. It's like, wow, the president of the university is recognizing me, but also the other students around Kean is recognizing me as well. So like, even reading through those, sometimes I read through them, I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know that this is happening. You
Yeah.
know, even though we have like a student newspaper, it's also important that we're having the president recognize the fact that students are doing leadership roles. And it goes on for the next generation of Kean to show that, you know, you are important and you are valued here. I think that's like the number one thing. Lindsey, did you want to say something?
Yes, I am so sorry. I did want to say one more thing that just rang to me when Chelsea was talking is that President Repollet is very student oriented. And I will say this for anyone who's listening, Kean is mostly student driven. You got student leaders giving tours, you got student leaders working in admissions, you got student leaders everywhere. So literally Kean is student driven. You barely see faculty, I will say these days. They're just there, you know, to help us for sure and to say, hey, you know, but they give us an opportunity for leadership and to take the handle on things here at Kean. Continue, Chelsea. I'm so sorry.
Um, It's okay. But also I think one of the most important things that I think was established here was the DEI office. I think that's where I felt like he really like brought it on that like it's not just a student body, we are also talking about the diversity here at Kean. I think with the DEI office, it's shed a lot of light to everything that's happening at Kean. And even when you talk about human rights, the DEI office is also helping programming with other students. You know, they're not leaving them out. It's just saying, you know, we're programmed because we're the adults here. It's more like we're programmed, but we're also allowing students to give their insight input here as well. And that's like, as Lindsey said, Kean is student driven because it allows students to say what they say their minds, speak their minds and not be silenced. And I think that's the number one thing when it comes to like being a student anywhere. You always feel like you're being silenced by an adult. I don't ever feel like I'm being silenced here at Kean. My opinion always feels like it matters. And going from my freshman year up to my senior year, even looking at where my degree is going right now, it's mostly because of Kean. Seeing some of the events, like I used to always come to the Human Rights Institute when I was a junior up to my junior year up to here, working with Loretta. She really is the driving factor for where I want to be in life going into the human rights, because I saw the events that she hosted. I saw the events that was happening around campus, and I saw how important it was for students to really be social activists, everything like that. Like it's not like other campuses that I've heard of where they're like, yeah, we don't do that here. Oh no, we don't care. We don't really care about what students really think about when it comes to activism. You know, it's sometimes the light is shed on there, but like here we have the Human Rights Institute having a gallery that's based on student protests and student activism. And I was like, wow, even giving a tour, I work as a tour guide, even giving a tour and showing students that and parents, they're like, you guys do promotion of student activism? I'm like, yeah, we have it here. It's a whole gallery. And they're like, wow, the other schools that I tour, they never said that. They never showcased that. So it's important to showcase this, to show parents and incoming students that we are a diverse community. And it's not something that we just put there just for a prop. It's something that's really embedded into our community.
Yeah, so it's interesting because until Lindsey said that like Kean is student led, I always felt there was something different about Kean. Like, of course, I haven't been to every university in the country. Like, I've only been to one other one, but like now that I think about it, yeah, it is very student led. I see like back when I was back on campus, and even now, like there is a lot of student-led programming. There is a lot of like, even when it's not student-led, it's like student catered. Yeah, you don't get this like paternalistic tendency from administration. The administration, like, you know, like, yeah, they're there, but they're mostly there for the students, which is really interesting. So and that, you know, that ties into Unity Week, of course. So and it looks like we're like, I guess at the end here. You know, we did talk about what Unity Week is, what you do. Of course, we're at the end of Unity Week, but I will, you know, post in the information about it. And if you'd like to send me any materials, you absolutely can, and I'll post that with this podcast. But other than that, if you would like to give any closing remarks on anything, like anything you'd like to say, doesn't have to be about Uni Week. It can be about like pretty much anything.
Okay. I would just say for the students who are listening in, definitely get a little bit more active on campus. I stress that a lot. It's not just about like, oh, I'm just getting active just because it's getting active because you're learning new things. As you said before, Kean is very student led, but it's also giving students real world experience into what their future career would be like. So my absolute number one recommendation as me being a senior and about to leave Kean, be a little bit more involved in the Kean community because you can learn so much more. And it gives you a better insight into what Kean does and not just coming on campus and just going to class. It's also about who you meet here. And you can meet so many new people. Like I met Lindsey, well, I met Lindsey in high school, but it's
Oh,
still
wow.
we still kept in contact based on the things that we did here on campus. So, and a lot of my friends, they are like, I'm really into activism, so that's why I keep going back to activism. I meet a lot of people who are like-minded, like as me. So like my number one thing is that if you're here at Kean and you're a Kean student, go to the events, meet new people, get involved. That's about it.
Awesome.
If you can do. Awesome. Okay. One thing I will definitely back Chelsea up is yes, you need to get involved. Kean is mostly a commuter school. One thing that attracted me at Kean was the involvement in my freshman year, and I've been a commuter all my years of college, right? And I would just like to make a reference to my sister. Hopefully, she will listen to this. She's a biology major, so of course, with bio major, she has a lot of chemistry work to do, a lot of lab work to do, but she never got involved. And one thing that I have heard from alumni is that, you know, they went to college, but they just did the work. They didn't enjoy their years at college. And some people say like, oh, colleges are the best years of my life, but then they would like blow off their classes. But I would definitely say that Kean has that balance where you have the opportunity to get involved. If you like leadership, there's so many leadership positions that you guys can have. If you like designing, graphic design, you know, there's a whole other realm for that. You know, everything that's on Cougar Link, everything that you see as flyers, that's virtual, students have done that. Faculty actually are getting younger because they're learning from students about how to do certain things. And so one thing I will definitely say to anyone who is listening, or you know, anyone who is thinking about coming to Kean for college, is, you know, take advantage of any opportunity presented to you, because it only takes one person to change your life. You know, I met someone who was in student org, and I met him my freshman year, and now I'm the president of student org 4 years later. I did not think I would ever be president ever, you know, but I've always thought about leadership, and I've always said, hey, let me do this, let me do that. And with the people that I've met, I've been able to be here today. So I just want to thank you, Tiffany, so much for the opportunity to speak with you. Thank you, Chelsea. And yeah, thank you guys.
Great. And then also I'll just add, you know, again, like as a graduate student looking back on my undergraduate years, it was the student involvement, like outside of my classes, that really helped improve my career prospects and like just general prospects later on. Because I started our university's first art club. Like that's a big thing. And then I also talked to this university's art club, and they're like very proactive. They're also, you know, very social activist minded as well. So they're great too. It is really like this part of the college experience that I would say pay attention to that. Like, don't just go to classes, because like there are opportunities that can lead you down a very successful path. It may not be like outside of an internship, even like just unpaid stuff you do out of your own free will. Like if you know, like we're not getting, you know, student organizations. I don't know about Kean, but typically they're not paid. They are kind of more volunteer, but like just putting in that effort into doing that as a young person is like just a massive boon later on. So that's great. So thank you all again. I will be posting this video on our YouTube and our social media, I will let you know when I do that. Otherwise, thank you all again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye guys. Have a good one.
Have a good one.